Public Participation in Forest Landscape Management. This module explores public participation in forestry and the integration of public participation approaches in forest conservation, policy making, and management. Within this module, you will become familiar with the current state of forest ecosystems around the world and in Armenia, become acquainted with forest governance and management, and explore different participatory tools in forestry. Please familiarize yourself with the module structure. Let's explore the keywords and definitions used in this module. Forest, a type of vegetation with dominance of tree species. Forest ecosystem and woodlands, a biome that includes moderate to highly productive tree-dominated systems with a wide range of physiognomic and structural expressions distributed from tropical subtropical, warm temperate to boreal latitudes. Forestry, the practice and science of managing forests. Forest landscape, visible areas of land where social and ecological processes that affect trees and the forests they comprise occur on spatial and temporal scales. Landscape planning, one of the standard tools of nature conservation, spatial planning and sectoral authorities and local communities. Forest enterprise or protected area, a typical forest landscape, designated for better management of forest ecosystems. Landscape ecology, a primary source of information about landscape structures, functions and interaction between and among organisms and environments. Natural capital, the ability of nature to support human lives, the direct and indirect contributions of ecosystems to human well-being. Natural resources, diverse materialistic and energetic benefits for people as outputs of natural processes or ecosystem functions. Ecosystem services, ecological processes or ecosystem functions that directly or indirectly relate to human well-being. Biological diversity, differences in elements and numbers of items, such as individuals, in a classification of species. In this section you will become familiar with the current state of forest ecosystems around the world. 30% or 4.06 billion hectares of the Earth's land area is covered by forests. Forests host most of the world's terrestrial biodiversity and hold as much carbon as the atmosphere. Forests provide livelihoods for more than 1 billion people around the world. They are vital for biodiversity conservation, soil and water protection, supply of wood for energy and construction. Forests are not distributed equally throughout the world. 45% of the world's forests can be found in the tropical domain, 27% in the boreal domain, 16% in the temperate domain and 11% in the subtropical domain. 5 countries house more than half, 54%, of the world's forests. They're the Russian Federation, Brazil, Canada, the United States of America, and China. 93% or 3.75 billion hectares of forest area worldwide are naturally regenerating forests and 7% or 290 million hectares are planted or plantation forests. Since the 1990s, around 420 million hectares of forest area has been lost worldwide. The rate of forest loss has declined substantially. In the most recent 5-year period, 2015 to 2020, the annual rate of deforestation was estimated to be 10 million hectares, down from 12 million hectares in the period from 2010 to 2015. In this section we will explore forest governance and management. According to property rights theory, there are 5 legal ownership categories, known as resource regimes. These categories include state property, res publicae, which are publicly owned forests managed by an agent of the government; municipal or communal property, res communalis, locally or regionally owned forests managed by communes, towns, municipalities or other administrative units; common property, res communis, privately owned forests managed by a group of co-owners with a governance structure responsible for assigning rights and duties; private property, res privati, privately owned forests managed by a specific individual or private legal entity that holds the rights to control its use; open access property, res nullius, forests that are not owned by anyone and where everyone has access. Forestry is management. It is the art of organizing forested landscapes to capture and store solar energy for the production of desired goods, services and effects. It is also based on personal experiences, research results and understanding of the dynamics of biological systems. According to PEFC, sustainable forest management is the stewardship and use of forests and forest lands in such a way, and at a rate, that maintains their biodiversity, productivity, regeneration capacity, vitality and their potential to fulfill, now and in the future, relevant ecological, economic and social functions, at local, national, and global levels, and that does not cause damage to other ecosystems. According to the ITTO, there are 7 criteria that define the essential elements by which sustainable forest management may be assessed. The criteria are: enabling conditions for sustainable forest management, extent and condition of forests, forest ecosystem health and resilience, forest production, forest biological diversity, soil and water protection, economic, social and cultural aspects. Indicators measure change over time and show progress for each criterion. Indicators can be applied at different scales: scientific, political, market-oriented. They are directly interlinked with the purpose of the indicator and the user. According to the Convention on Biological Diversity, the ecosystem approach is a strategy for the integrated management of land, water and living resources that promotes conservation and sustainable use in an equitable way. There are also other concepts for sustainable forest management in the world. Here are some of them: close to nature forest management, nature-conforming forest management, nature-compatible forest use or ecological forest use. Researchers have advised to extend both spatial and temporal scales of forest and biodiversity management. These approaches have included mosaicing existing public and private property, creating nested sets of management organizations at multiple ecological scales, and creating agreements to manage certain forests, such as privately protected forests. One example of public and private property mosaicing for forest management practice is conducted by the Forest Society. The aim of the Forest Society is to conserve land through 2 primary methods: permanent land acquisitions and conservation easements. Through permanent land acquisitions, the Forest Society includes lands in its reservation system and manages lands for recreation, timber, wildlife habitat, watershed protection and scenery. Through conservation easements, landowners maintain the rights of the land for forestry and other conservation purposes, but agree to permanently prohibit mining, subdivision and development. In this section you will become familiar with the current state of forests in Armenia. Armenia is a landlocked mountainous country in the South Caucasus, with a population of 3 million. Third of the population lives in rural areas. About 11% of the country is covered by forests, that is 0.1 hectares of forest area per resident, one of the lowest ratios in the region. According to the National Forest Inventories of the Soviet Union, forest cover in Armenia has decreased from approximately 35% during the first 3 millennia BC, to 8% during the 1950s, to 11% during the 1980s and down to 7% by the year 2000. The main challenges to forest management and conservation in Armenia include illegal logging, livestock grazing, tree pests, forest fires, tourism, and erosion. Majority of forest lands in Armenia are under the management of Hayantar, also known as Armforest. Hayantar manages an area of around 342,000 hectares, of which 277,000 hectares is covered by forests. This is approximately 75% of forests in Armenia. 55,000 hectares, or 25% of forests in Armenia, fall under protected areas. The Caucasus Wildlife Refuge comprises 20,000 hectares of rented property for wildlife preservation in the vicinity of Khosrov Forest State Reserve in Armenia. The Khosrov Forest State Reserve and adjacent territories make up the core territory for South Caucasian biodiversity. The area hosts rare wildlife species such as Armenian mouflon, Syrian brown bear, Bazor goat, black Eurasian vulture, Caucasian leopard, Caucasian lynx and Armenian viper. Such public-private partnership organizations have recently emerged all over the world to promote landscape management in the areas of large-scale conservation planning, also known as landscape conservation cooperatives, LCCs. Learn more about the importance of forests and how to protect them by watching the following video. In this section you will identify stakeholders, their roles in forestry and become familiar with the public participation approach in forest ecosystems. There are 4 public roles: decision-making, advisory, consultative, supportive, and advocating. Decision-making roles often occur at the state level and involve forest planning and management decisions. Advisory and consultative roles occur when different councils and local groups engage landowners, land managers, and other stakeholders in public hearings and workshops regarding forest management planning, landscape restoration and other interventions that require environmental impact assessment procedures. The supportive role entails community groups working together to mobilize local resources towards solving common issues. In the case of forestry, the work can be on a voluntary basis or paid. The advocating role is carried out by local grassroots organizations and/or professional unions, advocating for a cause to spark change at local, national, or international level. People or key stakeholders that participate in these roles include subsistence farmers, small-scale natural resource users, policymakers, planners, administrators, commercial bodies, non-governmental organizations (NGOs), scientists, conservationists, forest managers, and other categories that are not defined yet, such as future generations. Forest stakeholders continuously consider questions such as, what should forests look like? What kind of products, services and experiences should they provide? What functions should forests perform? Stakeholder identification is a process to identify and categorize individuals and groups who have some interests, claims or rights to the benefits of forests and who are affected by, or can affect the forest system. A study was conducted to investigate the corporate stakeholder interrelation under the sustainable forest management concept. The combination of different methods were used, including literature reviews, expert interviews, questionnaire surveys, informal meeting, discussions with stakeholders, and fieldwork. The triangulation method was used in addition to several methodological approaches, theoretical views, data sources, research and analysis methods to reveal the corporate stakeholder relationship, design the concept of sustainable forest management, and identify issues related to implementation. The stakeholder analysis processes included the following: determining aspects of a social and natural phenomenon that are influenced by decisions or actions, identifying individuals, groups and organizations that are affected or likely to influence processes, and prioritizing individuals and groups involved in the decision-making process. There are several types of participatory approaches suitable for ecosystem services. Some examples include citizen science, participatory mapping or sensing, hackathons, workshops, serious gaming. For more information about participatory approaches, visit Module 1, Overview of Participatory Approaches. According to the joint FAO-ECE-ILO Committee on Forest Technology, Management and Training, public participation is a voluntary process whereby people, individually or through organized groups, can exchange information, express opinions, articulate interests, and have the potential to influence decisions or the outcome of the matter at hand. The committee indicates a number of reasons for utilizing public participation approaches in sustainable forestry, such as improve understanding and mutual recognition of interests, gather information, enhance knowledge, increase public awareness of forests and forestry, improve provision of multiple forest goods and services and maximize the total benefits of forests, stimulate involvement in decision-making and implementation processes, enhance acceptance of forest policies, plans, management, operations, increase transparency and accountability of decision-making, identify and manage conflicts and problems, and share costs and benefits in a fair and equitable way. Let's discuss a few public participatory tools. Citizen science is the practice of public participation and collaboration in scientific research with the aim of enhancing scientific knowledge. Through citizen science, people exchange data and contribute to monitoring and data collection programs. The Living Ash Project is one example of forest monitoring with citizen science. The project aims to determine the effects of ash dieback disease with the help of members of the public to tag and continuously monitor ash trees. Mobile and web technologies were used to collect and share information about the pests and pest-resistant trees. Public Participation Geographic Information Systems (PPGIS) is another tool that can support decision-making in forestry. PPGIS tools solve problems of geographical isolation. They provide the opportunity of participation to individuals who cannot be in the location physically and therefore reduce distances. These tools quickly gather information, increase the rates of participation, produce collective spatial information that is better than that of individuals or even experts, and strengthen confidence and cooperation in forest management. PPGIS tools provide a collective understanding of forest value through visualizing spatial data by identifying a typology of place-based values or data, querying the general public or subgroups about the meaning or distributions of the values, compiling and preparing the data for analysis, modeling the compatibility of proposed activities or decisions with the public data collected, and promoting public discussions or learning opportunities. The first internet-based participatory mapping application that collected data on forest values used Brown, 2005, landscape value spatial mapping method in the development process. The study area included 2.4 million hectares of the Canadian Forest Service territory. For more information, click on the link below the image. You can learn more about the public participation in forest management by watching this video. In this section we will discuss participatory approaches and tools in forest ecosystems. Case Study 1. City Forest Management in Hämeenlinna. The Sibelius Forest is a 100 hectares nature reserve in Hämeenlinna. In the early 1990s, a new management process was established to include the cooperation and participatory partnership of citizens in city planning. In 1998, the Hämeenlinna Office of Natural Resources developed and executed 2 plans for town parks and forests in cooperation with the public. The first plan, Park Program 2010, included a strategy for all town parks, and the second plan included the Alanka region. The goal was to improve the goods and services in the city and surrounding areas. Members from resident associations, schools, parents groups, sports clubs, nature conservation associations, traveling businesses, and regional and town administrations, such as health administration, police, and also churches participated in the process. An open public meeting was held, where people shared their thoughts about the parks and forests. Through participatory processes such as feedback cards, phone surveys, and questionnaires, public opinion and input was collected and analyzed at least 3 times a year. The outcome of the project entailed improvements to the environment and better skilled city employees who met the demands of the public. Case Study 2. User Councils in State Forest Districts, Denmark. Until 1995, public participation in state forest districts was limited in Denmark. Expert-based, permanent or ad hoc advisory boards at the national level were employed. In 1995, the Forest and Nature Agency introduced user councils at each of its 25 state forest districts. Since 1995, 33 user councils with 14 members per council have been established in 25 state forest districts in Denmark. The goal of user councils was to enhance the involvement and influence of local users and citizens in the management and use of public forests. The user councils included members with local affiliations, such as environmental NGOs, county officials, municipal politicians, representatives from defense, agricultural, hunting, and tourist organizations. Workshop techniques were introduced to meetings to stimulate participation. Excursions and debates were also held during the meetings. User councils facilitated communication and increased understanding of actions and motivations among different stakeholders and state forest districts. Case Study 3. Firewise USA. Firewise USA aims to increase ignition resilience, reduce fire risks, and inform individuals and communities about fires. It utilizes a collaborative framework to help individuals and communities become organized and take action against fires by using a common, freely accessible platform. Through the process of participatory mapping, citizens are directly involved in early identification and sharing of fire locations through an online platform. Through the participatory mapping approach, citizens and communities are empowered and involved in fire prevention. Case Study 4. Public Participation GIS for Mapping Land Use Patterns in Gedik Valley, Armenia. The internet-based PPGIS system, Maptionaire, was used to evaluate and identify ecosystem services provided by the forest in Gedik Valley, Armenia. Information on land use patterns and landscape changes of the area were mapped, and local community energy sources and demand were recorded. The questionnaire contained open-ended and multiple-choice questions, and used draw buttons to allow participants to draw a polygon or place a point of significance. Interviewers used tablets to record answers. In case of unreliable internet connection, paper-based questionnaires and printed maps were used. The aim of the project was to identify forested areas connected to illegal logging, and provide information to improve and prolong the use of natural resources in the area. Locations of identified landscape changes were compared with the land use and land cover map of the Gedik Valley. For more information on PPGIS in National Forest Management, explore the following studies. This module is developed in the frames of the German-Armenian Network on the Advancement of Public Participation GIS for Ecosystem Services as a Means for Biodiversity Conservation and Sustainable Development, also known as GATES. Financed through DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service, with funds from the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development.